Is there any questions for the delegation? Okay, Councillor Klein.
Thank you very much for your presentation. And we've spoken before, and I will attest to your passion for our community and for our city. And it doesn't go unnoticed by some. I'll tell you that right now. It really doesn't. And I appreciate the fact that we've had open conversations about many things. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. It's more for myself, just to prove a point. But the development of a city, the generation of revenues, mostly comes from property tax. Agreed? So why would we take the department, as you'll know from your experience, that generates the most revenue for is property taxes? And when we're saying on one side we want to grow to 1 million, although our net migration right now is negative, why would we not fund the property planning and development department more to allow for the growth that we keep talking about? Instead, we're capping them off. Do you think that that's a wise budgetary move? Or is that part of that status quo?
I don't think it's to cap it wise and not make the investment in it when there's other things that are being invested in that are actually ineffective and not providing value, or things that council or public service are doing that are not providing value. Yeah, there needs to be more into property and development. There needs to be an oversight to what goes on from other departments towards property and development, specifically this department. And I said it in front of the Assiniboine Community Committee. You're looking at selling John Bloomberg Golf Course. That is a St. James golf course. That is a St. James golf course. You sell that, you're just allowing urban sprawl outside of the city. And if you want to see an example of what is going on, lack of development within the city, take a drive on the north perimeter and see what West St. Paul has done.
Okay.
Those are businesses that should be here.
Okay, so now it's, you got another question?
No, go ahead. I'll come back.
We can ask yours now. No, okay, I'm just making sure everyone gets their questions in. And Councillor Lutz.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ryback, for you continually coming down. I'm not always 100% in agreement with you, but I am in agreement with you on a lot of topics. You know, I'm feeling the same level of frustration as are many on council. And, you know, what gives me great hope is that come fall of 2022, there will be election, there will be leadership change. And I'm optimistic that we'll get some stronger leadership. I think there's been a lot of floundering going on. And, you know, we didn't have a CAO. We had an acting one for almost 2 years, which, you know, the acting one focused on finance, which was his specialty, which was really good because of the pandemic. But yeah, I think things too have gone off the rails in a lot of areas. So I appreciate your comments and feedback. You know, I think I came before I was elected over 50 times to City Hall and stood where you're standing and decided to go on the dark side to try and make change. So I encourage you to look for an opening too, and get involved. What you're doing is great. People hear you. We do hear you. And change is being chiseled at, I can assure you.
Councilor Lukes, appreciate that. You wanted me to expand on my frustration with this process.
Sure. You know what? I guess I'll ask you a question and then you can answer it. Okay. What do you think of the budget process at City Hall?
Well, I have a published letter to the editor of the Winnipeg Free Press back several months ago stating that it is unfair that not every councillor has an equal seat at the table in consultation to create finances budget. It's as a person who has voted every time, and we elect somebody that we think is of like-minded, has the background, can be active, take action, have results, that they're not all involved. That's the one. Number two, this budget, pre-budget was released on Friday. The meeting started at 2 p.m.
Yes.
I haven't seen any councillor give their thoughts on the budget, but already here we are in delegation. And it's a 2-week window to come up to vote. Mm-hmm. That's number two. There's about 5. I'll try to be brief. Number 3, I don't know what time that meeting ended, but you know what? I'll go on YouTube or I'll go and get the document online over the weekend. And I find out delegations start Monday if you want to appear in front of innovation. But you got to register before 4:30 on Friday. And if you want your presentation in the public record, it has to be in before 4:30 on Friday.
Open and
Wow.
transparent process we have here at City Hall, Mr. Ryback.
That's brutal. So as a delegate, if I wanted to appear in front of innovation, I had absolutely zero opportunity. I don't know if they had any yesterday.
No, none. I'm on the committee. Zero.
And we've had discussions in the past about innovation. 2-week period for a $3 billion budget. The same thing happened with Transit Master Plan, $2 billion plus or minus 50%. Wow, lightning speed going through there with no consultation or disclosure to the wards on how they're going to be affected. The
Ram
30-kilometer zone, no transparency on what's the cost for 10,000 speed bumps and 25,000 signs. Am I cynical? Yes, I am. When these kinds of things are happening, what is the cost of 10,000 speed bumps if you're going to go 30 kilometers on 2,000 kilometers of streets? I'll even challenge how many counselors know the information I know, because I've done my research since March. The governance in this hall, in this chamber, needs to change. How you deal with delegates needs to change. How you prepare for meetings needs to change.
Okay, Councillor Coyne, do you have another question?
I think you kind of touched on it when you were talking about the budget process. But you and I worked for the same corporation at one time. Did they only give the managers 4 days to prepare and go over things?
Absolutely not. We're involved for months. We're involved for months. What do you see your ongoing needs? Here, and by the way, here's your cuts you're going to get. How are you going to change?
Yeah.
Finance, I'll give you an example of what I know takes place in industry. You have vacancies. You can use those hours because you have budget. So you might have part-time staff that you can allocate hours to them out of those vacancies. Then finance turns to you and says, you lost your vacancies, but you have to still improve service, but you have to cut hours.
Yeah.
We make it happen.
Yeah.
We
So-
get creative.
We call it at the City of Winnipeg vacancy management, and I pushed on that for the first 2 years I was here. Many people didn't know what I was talking about. And then they removed that word from the last budget, and they've kind of put it back a little bit. It's a savings account. It's an account that can be used for all kinds of things down the road. Listen, what I think is most important here is that this budget really is kind of a copy and paste of other budgets. If you take your time, and I suggest you do, take some time and look at where all the special projects are going, and then see where they sit on council, despite whatever the tax income might be from any given area. But take a look at who's getting extra spray pads, or who's getting extra parks, or who's getting extra, this or that, or who's getting work done from planning perspective. When we have like Point Douglas and other areas that we've basically ignored for years, that need to have some tender love and care, if you will. Need to have a plan put in place to rejuvenate it. So I suggest you take a look at that. But I wanted to ask you one final question, because this is the one thing that disturbs me most, is when I look at the budget, I don't see any objectives. I don't see any milestones. I don't see any listing of our strengths or weaknesses. I don't see any opportunities. I see the transit budget. I don't see any focus on the fact that we still don't have a U-Pass. We still don't know what's going on there. We don't know what's going to happen with this new variant coming in. All of that. Did you not have to do that on a yearly basis? And were you not accountable to talk to those on a quarterly basis at minimum?
Bi-weekly,
Thank you.
we spoke about it. I was frontline manager. There's a director and a VP and a president. The president knew my name. The president knew what my results were. I met bi-weekly with my vice president, weekly with and these were effective meetings. And I was accountable to the KPIs and the budget that was presented to me. And we delivered.
Do you ever do a budget without setting the KPIs first?
No, because you have to deliver on the KPIs. How are you going to get there?
Thank you.
Here's the mistakes I've seen in the budget is it's a lot of fluff. You want to talk about climate change, but there's nothing in there about reducing all the $80,000 trucks, 8-cylinder King Ranch Hemis, when they're not hauling or towing anything. And there's one occupant. You guys are target 2030, 31 to have 50% single reduction to 50%. Try that in the city first before you stuff it down our throats. How many times, you want to come in my neighborhood, and a lot of the issues that I presented is in an area of 50 houses. What is that exponentially throughout the city?
So I have a question, just so you know, are you aware that in our climate change action plans, we have kind of two different targets? One is a city target that the city has to implement, and one is a community target, which the community has to, we're encouraging community to implement. So as far as targets, you know, a lot of our focus, the things that we have to meet in terms of our federal regulations and stuff, are things that we are looking at within budget. Are you aware?
Yes, I'm aware of that. I'm also aware that the Paris Accord and the Kyoto have not met one of their targets. I also know that a lot of the targets are about headline grabbing and only in certain areas, whereas the global solutions aren't even being discussed. And I presented that in front of
Okay,
council.
thank you. You've answered my question. All right. Seeing no other questions, thank you very much for your
Okay, thanks
time
for the
today and
opportunity.
presenting. We appreciate that, hearing from you. Thank you.